You are welcome to HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name, Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. The Chicago trial was progressing well with R. Kelly showing signs of winning against at least 10 counts, until the judge tactfully robbed him of his victory by hijacking the will of the jury. By the time the trial reached jury deliberations, the prosecution had technically lost the case. Considering the jury did not believe the testimonies given by Lisa Van Allen and Freeman, they did not believe the testimony given by Tracy, and key witness Jane had admitted to lying under oath. Also important to note, the prosecution had placed certain charges, but failed to get the relevant witness by the name Brittany to testify in support. The prosecution had generally failed miserably, but were later rescued by Judge Harry Leinenweber, who systematically interfered with the jury's activities. At one point during the jury deliberations, one of them raised their hand and asked the judge to clarify on what the indictment said. According to the jurors, they felt that R. Kelly had not coerced any of the supposed victims into doing anything with him. In fact, witnesses had agreed to have done most of the things they did with him at their own independent free will. They were clear that R. Kelly forced nobody, and I repeat, forced nobody to do anything. The jurors were therefore considering a not guilty verdict for enticing and coercing, like the indictment had put it. They thought R. Kelly could have enticed them but not coerced anyone into doing anything they never wanted to do. When the jurors asked what they should do, R. Kelly's attorney asked that the judge takes the partial verdict and considers this a mistrial. Leinenweber, however, was quick to dictate, as he always does. We only have to find one and he is guilty for all. That is how R. Kelly was given another 3 guilty verdicts for the enticement and coercion counts. If the judge had been fair enough and stayed in his lane to let the jurors decide independently, R. Kelly would only be dealing with 3 counts of CP. Nothing more. And this would definitely attract a much lesser appealable sentence. This gets us interested in understanding what Judge Leinenweber's interest in guilty verdicts for R. Kelly is. Why exactly did he take this case so personal? He seemed more than ready to throw out any argument in form of motions from the defense, and appeared so much let down by the jury, who decided Kelly was more innocent than guilty, giving him a 7 out of 13 not guilty verdicts. Thankfully, he did not get to overthrow all decisions, as this could have made things even more difficult. It is assumed that Judge Leinenweber could have been afraid for the humiliation of his Brooklyn counterpart, who decided to hijack the entire jury and declare R. Kelly guilty for all counts, including for the non-applicable RICO violation, and several other bogus charges. The Chicago judge realized that there had been no conspiracy between R. Kelly and his co-defendants, and therefore automatically scraping off the RICO charges back in New York, which are of course pending appeal. The other New York charges that saw Judge Ann Donnelly convict R. Kelly were also completely under threat, considering he was regarded innocent for coercing anybody into doing anything. R. Kelly's character had, on the scale of 1 to 10, been cleaned up to 9.9, I would say. With a fully cleansed character, many New York allegations would not hold. Even if I had been the Chicago judge, I guess I would probably feel for my New York colleague, who was all of a sudden losing her credibility. In fact, everyone is now asking how she managed to find an innocent, kind man of R. Kelly's stature guilty for racketeering and trafficking, plus other charges that suggest he used forceful, abusive methods to subdue the supposed victims. Meanwhile, Leinenweber also knows that soon to come is the New York restitution hearing, where Judge Ann Donnelly will be reading to R. Kelly yet another important decision of how much money he should be paying the supposed victims as compensation for the same trafficking and racketeering charges that have so far been greatly shaken. In fact, people are asking what exactly she is going to be asking money for, considering her conviction is only hanging on a thin fishing line. I actually do sympathize with the jurors who handled the Chicago trial that now can see their wrongful convictions on the verge of being exposed in an appeal that must happen. All I can advise them is they teamed up with the wrong person, and should repent their sins in front of the Reverend Father, considering that's the only thing they can now do about it. The damage is already done, but thankfully, the prosecution made a mistake and gave R. Kelly another trial in Chicago, which gave him another shot at the case. Important to note, I cannot say all this and forget to thank the Chicago jurors who tried their best to consider count by count like Bonjean advised them. Despite the repeated interference by the judge, they largely did their job, and what's left is for Bonjean to appeal these remaining 6 counts, and we will soon have a clean sheet. Meanwhile, R. Kelly also does appreciate you fans and your role in shaping out this outcome. He knows well that the pressure you have put up is the reason the authorities now know that they cannot cheat their way to an all-guilty conviction and get away with it. R. Kelly says his hope is always rekindled when he learns that you all have got his back. According to Edna Edwards, I think I read that this is Bonjean's first federal criminal case she has handled. Considering this, she has surely done a great job, of course with the assistance of the other attorneys for the 2 co-defendants. We will definitely appeal the guilty verdicts and R. Kelly will be a free man soon. According to Maria Slavinsky, Bonjean did an excellent job. In such a short time she took this case on. It's truly an amazing job to get a not guilty verdict on 7 counts out of 13. Meanwhile, even the not guilty verdicts are on double jeopardy. I am happy that attorney Bonjean was able to get to the bottom of this case, to the extent that some silent criminals such as ex-wife Andrea Kelly were finally exposed. Perhaps if this trial had been longer, more secrets would have finally been exposed. No wonder some prosecution witnesses had to be forced to take the stand, and others such as Brittany completely failed to turn up, chickening out at the last minute. I am still disappointed though in our government as they overcharged him back in New York. They made sure they nailed him to the wall on anything and tried everything to get him the maximum sentence. Whoever made the decision to give him 30 years was completely unfair. Nothing he did deserves such a harsh sentence. According to Antonio Pope, I see the judge forced a guilty verdict onto the jury. That has to be ground for an investigation, and definitely the beginning of a successful appeal. I don't see how they could have convicted him when every government witness had an immunity deal. Every testimony was bought in that case and synthetically manufactured. The media keeps referring to the clips that were shown as CP, but was that ever proven? Do we even know who was really on the clips? This was not justice at all. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.